Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to start the 8th chapter. So super happy. Today we will cover Shlokas 8.1 to 8.4. And before we begin, I'll say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So let me play the Guru mantra.
Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I will play the mantras, the shlokas. You're all ready? I have already sent you the translations, so please try to follow.
अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः अक्षर ब्रह्म योगः अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मं किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञः कथं गोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्म उच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर.
Hare Krishna. So Smita ji is going to read the translations.
Yes, Guruji. I can start when you say.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. 8.2 Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body? O Madhusudana, and how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of the death? 8.3 The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities. 8.4 O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adhibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and the moon, is called Adidaiva, or Adidaiva or Adidaiva. Okay. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, I am called Adiyagna, the Lord of sacrifice. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So were you reading from the ISKCON version? Was it the Bhagavad Gita as it is?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So the wordings are slightly different between the interpretation, but the meaning is the same. So whichever appeals more to you, you can follow that.
Yes, thank you.
So we start the 8th chapter. So the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is titled as Akshara Brahma Yoga. So in Sanskrit, Kshara means perishable and Akshara means imperishable. So this 8th chapter is all about the yoga of the imperishable Brahman, how to reach the imperishable Brahman, what is the nature of Brahman. And Krishna will go deep into the mysteries of life, death, what is beyond, and all of that. And Krishna is also explaining the eternal, unchanging nature of the soul. This he explained a lot in the 2nd chapter. Now he is going to go further into other aspects of the unchanging, eternal nature of the soul. So when we start this chapter, I think we should all, it's an invitation. Krishna is inviting all of us to delve deep into our own consciousness, go deeper. And we have to ask questions, question ourselves. Fundamental questions that we need to really think hard on. Like questions like, what happens to us after death? See, as humans, we are all so proud of so many things, but isn't it funny that we don't know the most fundamental aspects about us? In other words, where were we before we were born? We don't know. Where are we going to be after we are dead? We don't know. We know that the universe has been there forever, and we are here for just such a tiny part. It's not even a blink in the cosmic cycle. That's our lifetime. And we are so engrossed without having any idea of what came before, what's going to come after. So Krishna is saying you have to think about those things. That is one of the aspects of this chapter. Also, what is the nature of the universe? Krishna says introspect on those things. How can we achieve lasting peace and liberation? So throughout life, we are running behind pleasures. They give us very temporary pleasure. Like, I want to buy some jewelry. Yes, it's going to make you happy, but that happiness lasts for a day, for a week maybe. And then it's gone. I want a new car. I want a new house. I want a new this. We are running, but it's very temporary. So how many times do we need to do that before understanding that all of these are temporary? That is Krishna's. He's urging us to think in that direction. And then Krishna says, once you realize that, then you should ask. So then what is it that's going to give me lasting happiness? What is it that's going to give me lasting peace? If everything is temporary, then what is not temporary? Krishna says, ask those kind of questions. And when you ask those questions, those answers will lead you towards the same conclusion that as long as you are living, we need to live a life which is rooted in dharma. So Krishna says, if you follow even that, if you make sure that your life is always rooted in dharma, righteousness, then your life will be pleasant. And also Krishna is challenging us to reflect on our own priorities. So Krishna says, look around you. Look how there is pain everywhere. Look how everything is temporary. Look, everything is transient. Nothing is stable. Nothing is steady. So once you see and once you understand, then ask yourself, do I have the right priorities in life? If I know that something is very temporary, very transient, should it still be the top priority for me? That kind of challenge Krishna is giving us to think that way. Because that is the only way we can reach towards the truth. And only truth can lead us to peace and eternal bliss. So this chapter is not just about philosophy. 8th chapter specifically, it's not just about philosophy, but it's a lot of practical guidelines. That is why this chapter is one of the most beautiful chapters, because there is a lot of practical guidelines given here on how to live a life of purpose, clarity, and how do you get liberation from this cycle of Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. So the message is very clear. Krishna says, by cultivating a constant awareness of the divine, constant, practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness means what? Are you unknowingly, unconsciously just going around doing things like, mechanically? Or are you mindful? When you breathe, how many people even know how many times they breathe in a minute? We don't even pay attention. It's just happening. Correct? Whereas it is the most important vital part of our living. That is why when we say meditation, pranayama, they first ask us to focus on the breath. Why? That is the beginning. That is how you get into mindfulness. Mindfulness is being aware and doing things with awareness. Very important. And how to live a life of virtue, and how this will all lead us to the highest goal of merging with the absolute Brahman. And Krishna is also telling us, he is assuring us that by understanding the eternal nature of the soul and aligning our lives with the divine will, we can overcome the fear of death and we can move towards a state of everlasting bliss. No matter how brave a person is, it is said that at the time of death, everybody goes through fear. It's a very fearful experience. Fearful because we are stepping into something unknown. We don't know. We don't know what next. So it is said that everybody faces tremendous fear. And Krishna is teaching us in this chapter how to overcome that fear and how you can make it a fearless experience. Because it is not a if, right? It is not if I'm going to die. Death is certain. So if it is certain, why not plan in advance? And that's what Krishna is saying, plan in advance and I'll teach you how to make it a pleasant experience. So in the 7th chapter, previous chapter, Krishna mentioned a few terms. He spoke about Brahman, Adi Bhuta, Adi Atma. I think you all remember we covered a few of those topics in the revision also. And Krishna also explained how the enlightened souls are always in full consciousness of him, even at the time of death. Now here, in the 8th chapter, Arjuna, our friend Arjuna, he has a lot of questions about all these topics. So he's asking Krishna 7 questions at the start of this chapter. And Krishna is answering it very kindly for the benefit of all of humanity. So you should see that the opening verse of this chapter, if you notice, Arjuna, he is calling Krishna as Purushottama. Purusha Uttama. Purushottama. That basically means supreme person. What is Arjuna signifying by this? He is again demonstrating to all of humanity that he is in a mode of pariprashna. Because that is when the answers will actually make sense. Otherwise, the answers will just be a philosophical exercise. What is your goal? Is your goal to become a philosopher? Is your goal to become a scholar? Or is your goal to reach realization, the ultimate realization? If you just want to be a philosopher or a scholar, go ahead. Do what you want. But if you want realization, it will come only from a mode of surrender and lack of pride. So Arjuna is letting everybody know that he is in that mode of pariprashna when he starts his question by addressing Krishna as, O Purushottama. So I acknowledge that you are the perfect. You are the perfect person, supreme person, I acknowledge. And now I am asking with humility, please help me understand. It's a very big difference. I always, tell even, not even, I especially youngsters, I tell them that there is a big difference between asking a question to the teacher and questioning the teacher. If you get into the questioning the teacher, then okay, you may get some smart debates and smart answers which may help you become a very intelligent person. But if your goal is to actually use that knowledge to realize something blissful, something divine, then questioning the teacher never works. You have to ask the question in a mode of humility. This is exactly what Arjuna is doing here. He's setting the stage that way. Because Arjuna also understands that he has a lot of doubts in his mind. So Arjuna is also a... See, when we just spoke a few minutes ago, I said mindfulness, right? This is another aspect of being mindful. We all have doubts, but how many of us even know that we are full of doubts? We are not aware of that. So when we are studying some topic, when we are listening to somebody, internally there is a chatter going on. Oh, TK, but yeah, he's saying like this, but but then that Swamiji said something else. There is this constant going on inside, and are you aware of that? That is another aspect of being mindful. Arjuna is very well aware of that. Arjuna knows that he has a lot of doubts in his mind that keep disturbing him. And Arjuna thinks those doubts are pretty much like demons. Demons that are not letting him focus on the divinity. So, in the second verse, he addresses Krishna as, "Oh Madhusudana." What is the significance? Madhusudana means the person who killed the demon Madhu. So Arjuna is telling Krishna, "Oh Madhusudana, just like you killed the demon Madhu, please kill these doubts which are like demons, troubling my mind all the time." So such a beautiful symbolic representation of what's going on in his mind. So let us see now what are those questions that Arjuna is asking in the first two verses. So we are covering 4 verses in today's session. The first 2 are questions and the second 2 are answers. And because there is a lot of technical jargon here, I'm spending a lot of time to explain, and I'm spending more time today just in 4 shlokas. Let us see how much we can cover today. So what is Arjuna's first question? Arjuna asks, "Krishna, what is Brahman?" So as per the answer, you can see that what Krishna explains is Brahman is the indestructible, transcendental, living entity, which is Jiva. We discussed earlier also that Brahman is absolute, never changing. Just for context, I want to explain that the word Brahman is derived from the Sanskrit root Bra. Bra means to grow or to expand. So Brahman means ever growing, expanding. And it also means that it is the cause of any kind of growth. It means both. So for example, you grow, I grow, the animals grow, plants grow. None of that growth is possible without Brahman. So that is another aspect of the word Brahman being derived from Bra. So after hearing the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Arjuna already accepted Krishna that way. So every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme living being is Supreme Brahman. So we discussed the difference between qualitatively the same versus quantitatively the same. So a drop of water in your palm is qualitatively the same as the water in the ocean. But the ocean is quantitatively a lot more vast than the drop of water. Just like that, when we say Aham Brahmasmi, yes, you are also Brahman. So you are qualitatively the same as Brahman, but quantitatively the Supreme Brahman is supreme, of course, infinite. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he's explained this slightly differently. So Prabhupada ji says that the absolute truth is realized in 3 phases of understanding. What are those 3 phases? Brahman, Paramatman and Bhagavan. And Shri Krishna has explained this in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11. I think Sulata ji was trying to recite this during the revision. When I told her it is out of scope for 7th chapter, it's going to be part of 8th. Sulata ji, you want to recite that now?
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna to all.
Hare Krishna.
Vadanti tat-tat-vavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Hare Krishna. Absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, and all are identical. Thus, such phases of absolute truth are expressed as you said, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan.
Thank you so much, Sulataji. So it is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us spend a little bit of time diving deeper in what it actually means. So Prabhupada ji says that the ultimate truth can be understood in different ways, but it's all the same at the core. But we can understand it in different ways. So that is the focus, is how we understand. The focus is not whether it is really different, three different things. It's not. So some people see it as vast formless Brahman. Other people, they feel it as a divine presence within everything, which is Paramatman. And some know it as a personal God, which is Bhagavan. So I will repeat. There are some people who like to see or who like to think or understand God as a formless presence. And Prabhupada ji says that is what is termed as Brahman. And some people, they see it, these are the people who say that God is right within you. They see the divine presence within themselves and within everything. And that aspect is known as Paramatma. And some, they see God as a personal God. These are the people who say that I feel like God is holding my hand, I feel like, He is helping me every day. So that aspect is what is known as Bhagavan. Now, different acharyas and different scholars, they have emphasized different aspects. Like some scholars would say that Brahman is the thing that you have to focus the most. A lot of Vedantic scholars, they will have that kind of approach. Whereas some scholars will say that, you have to focus more on Paramatma aspect, because you have to understand that in every Kana Kana mein Bhagavan hai. So you have to understand that God is in everything, God is everywhere. So you need to appreciate God that way. Whereas the Bhaktivadis especially, so Swami Prabhupada is a Bhaktivadi, right? So the Bhaktivadis, they emphasize a lot on Bhagavan, because Bhagavan means the personal aspect of God, the personal God. So Krishna is a personal God. We are giving Krishna a form. So that is why we say Krishna can be a friend, Krishna can be like, you can have fatherly love, friendly love, and all of that we discussed. That is all possible only if you perceive God as a personal identity, a personal form, right? So because Prabhupada ji comes from the bhakti side of things, Prabhupada ji says that Bhagavan is the complete form of this truth, and Paramatma is a part of it, and Brahman is like a light that comes from it. So in other words, Prabhupada ji gives the example of how the sunlight comes from the sun, and sometimes people, they argue that whether sunlight is better or whether sun is better, but we can all say that, at least when it comes to the sun, it makes no sense, correct? Does it make any sense to argue whether sunlight is superior or sun is superior? Because one doesn't exist without the other. It's kind of, So he goes on to again emphasize that aspect. And what Prabhupada ji says is that whoever can understand the sun as a star which encompasses everything, like it is the mass, the body of a star, it is also the entity called sun, it is also the sunlight. The person who can see that way, he says, is the most advanced student, and that, he says, is the essence of Bhagavan. When you say personal God, you have already understood all aspects, because Krishna himself had said, you remember, where Krishna himself had said in the 6th chapter, he said that I have a form and I am also formless, like they are both true. So if you understand Krishna, automatically you understand the formless aspect as well. So that is why Prabhupada ji says that if you focus on the Bhagavan aspect, you are an advanced student. I hope this makes sense. And then comes the terms Purusha and Brahman. And today Sujata ji is not there. This is Krishna's Leelas, okay? Whenever somebody has a very technical question, and when I'm explaining it, that person is absent. Because that is Krishna's Leela, because Krishna doesn't want us to get too hung up on, becoming a scholar or becoming a techie. Is this repeat? It has been repeating for the past 4 years. I've been conducting Bhagavad Gita sessions for 4 years. Every time somebody asks me a very technical question, when I'm actually explaining, that person is absent. Yeah. So the message is, get into pariprashna mode, just have humility. All these things will automatically make sense. But for the sake of completeness, let's go through these technical terms, Purusha and Brahman. What is the difference? Because we spoke about both. They are both fundamental concepts, Vedic literature, but they are just different aspects. And their interpretations, they are different based on which school of philosophy you go study. So Purusha is a term used in Sankhya philosophy. I hope you remember that there are 6 schools of philosophy. We have Sankhya, we have Vedanta, they're all Mimamsa, they're all different schools. Nyaya, and also we studied the whole list of schools in one of the previous classes. So out of them, Sankhya is a dualistic philosophy. You understand dualistic and non-dualistic, correct? Everybody understands? Can you please give me a raise of hands? Everybody understands dual and non-dual? Okay, because if you don't understand, then we have a problem, fundamental problem. Then I will have to stop and explain. Okay, so everybody gets it. So dual and non-dual, these are the 2 very fundamental divisions in our philosophical schools of Hindustan, of our country. So Sankhya belongs to the dualistic. Why it is dualistic? Because they make a differentiation. They make a differentiation between Purusha and Prakriti. So they will say that Purusha is the observer, and they will say Purusha is distinct from the Prakriti. So
Dvaita
they say
and
that.
Advaita.
Pardon me? Yes, somebody.
Sorry, Guruji. I was unmuted. No, I was just telling. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but dual and non-dual, Dvaita and Advaita, right? That's
Correct. Dual is Dvaita and non-dual means Advaita. Very true. So because Purusha and Prakriti, where the moment you say that we call God as Purusha and we say that Purusha is separate from, doesn't matter what. The moment you talk about God being separate from anything, then that is dualistic philosophy. Whereas non-dualism means there is no separation. So in the Sankhya philosophy, that's what we studied a lot in the 2nd chapter also, where we said that when Purusha and Prakriti come together, the never changing and the ever changing, when they come together, then the magic of life happens. That is how Sankhya philosophy explains this whole concept. So that is the fundamental definition of Purusha, whereas Brahman is a Advaitic Vedantic philosophy. The term Brahman comes from Advaita Vedanta. The term Purusha comes from Dvaita philosophy. So what does the Vedanta philosophy say? Brahman, they say it is ultimate reality. It is the supreme. It is beyond definitions, beyond descriptions. It is eternal, infinite, indivisible. It exists in everything. It exists everywhere. Brahman is both, transcendent as well as inherent. What does that mean, inherent as well as transcendent? It means Brahman exists within you also. Brahman exists within the material world also, and Brahman is above the material world also. And Brahman pervades the entire universe and beyond. So Brahman is the only sole reality. And eventually the goal is to identify the individual soul with this Brahman. And when we can identify, when we can connect the dots and say that, oh, this is just a part of the Brahman only. It is not separate. I don't exist. I as Deepa, or I as Asha, or I as Smita, that is an illusion. That is not truth, that is illusion. It is created by Maya, it is created by ego. The reality is, everything is Brahman. There is nothing else that exists. So this is the concept of Brahman, and this comes from Advaita Vedanta. The differences are all again technical. It depends on how they explain it, and we can go into details sometime later if somebody is really interested, but I hope you got the whole idea of what the difference is. Purusha and Brahman, they're both talking about the same God, they're just talking about it differently. The Sankhya philosophy tries to differentiate the energy from the energetic, whereas in Advaita Vedanta, they put it all together as a single entity. They say energy, energetic, everything is the same. It's one. That is Brahman. That is what you need to understand. The next question, what is Adhyatma? This is what Arjuna is asking. Now, I will try to explain it in simple terms, the answer of Sri Krishna. So, Adhyatma is a concept that will help us understand the deeper essence of our own existence. Now, it consists of two words, Adhyatma. What are the two words? Adi, meaning above or beyond, and Atma. You know what is Atma. So, Adhyatma refers to our higher self. Because Adi means above and beyond, and Atma means, the self. So, Adhyatma means the higher self. What does higher self mean? Something that is beyond our physical and mental experiences. So, in other words, you think of Adhyatma as the purest form of your being. That is Adhyatma. We discussed the other day. You may look at a bangle, you may look at a earring, you may look at a necklace, you may look at a bracelet, and you may start having a fight and an argument on which is better and which is. But what is in the purest sense, what is the essence of all of them? It is that pure gold, which later on got mixed with things and, shaped into many different things. But actually the purest is, and that is what Adhyatma is. So we need to somehow realize and understand that is our true nature. And somebody who is able to recognize this fully and embrace this, they are able to get a connect with the Supreme Soul. See, unless you identify yourself as that pure form, how will you identify yourself with Brahman? How will you identify yourself with the eternal, correct? So you have to start with that realization. You have to start understanding that I am an illusion. It is essential for material survival, but beyond that it is a hindrance. And for spiritual evolution, I need to get rid of this I, because that is not who I really am. It sounds paradoxical, and you have to introspect. So this is Krishna's message right in the beginning. He says, you need to challenge yourself, you need to introspect, you need to question your own beliefs, your own thoughts. And that is how you will come to this understanding about Adhyatma, that I am something higher than this material existence. Very, very important. And people who have this kind of realization, that is why they are called as Adhyatma Chetasa, which means Adhyatma conscious. Like we have Krishna conscious, like that if you get to the realization, not theorization, if you can get a glimpse of this realization that yes, it makes sense. Like yesterday I was in another class, I was giving this example. So maybe that example is relevant for this discussion. So let us say there are two mobile phones. We all know what a mobile phone is. In one mobile phone, there is a beautiful devotional song going on. And in the other mobile phone, there is something very vulgar, very nasty going on. Now you come across these two phones. Now if you start saying that this is a good phone and that is a bad phone, does that make sense? Now everybody understands. Everybody understands that is you're being stupid because we are all educated in material knowledge. So we all understand how a phone works. And even a kid will come and say, you are mistaken. There is nothing wrong with the phone. It is just the software. Somebody is putting a wrong software here and there is a right software there. Correct. In other words, what is going on there? We are looking beyond appearance. We are looking beyond what is playing. We are not focusing on the good thing playing here and the bad thing playing there. We are introspecting and we are saying that phone itself is beyond what is playing. That what is playing doesn't define the phone. Correct? That is the line of thought we should have for human beings also. But we don't think like that when we brand one human being as bad and another human being as good. That we don't even question, correct? We just say, oh, this is a bad person. We don't say that person is demonstrating bad behavior. That is not how we say. 99% of the time, we always will say, this is a bad person, this is a good person. Now Krishna is challenging us or asking us to challenge those kind of reasoning and asking us to go deeper. That is Adhyatma. So once you realize that, no, the person itself cannot be bad because that person is the same as this person is the same as me. We are all the essence of Brahman only. What is going on is the play of Maya. What is going on is the play of gunas. Krishna himself has said this. And if we can think in that line, if we can have that line of thinking, that will lead us towards Adhyatma consciousness. And Adhyatma consciousness will lead us towards God consciousness. See how beautifully Krishna takes you step by step. That is the beauty of this chapter also. So go beyond the surface is the whole teaching. Next question, what is karma? Lot of us are experts here in karma yoga. I think we spent a lot of time discussing karma, all types of karma, prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, kriyamana karma. So I think this question, you all already know the answer. So the only thing I want to add is Krishna has made it very clear that there are 8.4 million, or for Indians, you can call it 84 lakh species, living species. And Krishna says that until you figure out the karma and the law of karma, you are going to keep rotating through those 8.4 million species. It's not fun, right? So let us get the understanding as quickly as we can and let's clear our karma. And what is the best way to clear our karma? You remember that, right?
Nishkam Karam Yogi.
Correct. Practice Nishkama Karma. What is the essence of Nishkama Karma? What makes it Nishkama?
Everything, you offer every result to the God's feet.
Exactly. The word I'm looking for is bhakti, devotion.
Bhakti.
So pretty much it is devotion that is going to help you clear your karma, because you cannot practice akarma, is not possible. Vikarma is going to take you deeper into the trenches. What you need is Nishkama Karma. And what that basically means is devotion in action. First, detachment in action. And once you have practiced detachment in action, devotion will come. And then you practice devotion in action. So that is all we need to understand. And the only thing Krishna says is, it is not because it is going to upset Krishna. Krishna is saying, if you don't get it, you are going to keep rotating through this 8.4 million species of life. It is not cool for you. The next question, what is Adi Bhuta? Okay, so you know the term Bhuta. Like Krishna said, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. So, constantly changing material body or physical world, that is, how do you define? So, they have defined what all happens. So, how can you say something is a living entity? You can say because they go through 6 stages. What are the 6 stages? First, they are born, birth. After birth, what happens after birth? They grow. Natural, correct? So first is birth, second is growth, third is sustainment. You grow some and then you sustain at that level for some time. And then fourth is they produce some byproducts. For example, we procreate, we create children, we create some other byproducts. Then fifth, they diminish, because nothing keeps growing forever. At some point, it starts diminishing. And the sixth is the certainty, they die. So these are the 6 stages that defines, whatever you call as a living entity. So what are the terms used? So Adi Bhuta, and how do you compare it with Prakriti? Because in Sankhya Yoga, we again spoke about Prakriti being what is manifested in nature, correct? So I'll quickly go through that. So in Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti is the source of the material world, and Prakriti is encompassing those three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And Prakriti itself is unmanifested. But when it interacts with Purusha, then the manifestation happens. So in other words, Prakriti is a manifesting energy, and the actual manifestation happens when it interacts with Purusha. So this we already discussed, we understand. So Adibhuta, now what is Adibhuta in this context? Adibhuta is specifically referring to the manifested aspect of the universe. So Prakriti is what makes any manifestation possible, and Adibhuta talks about the manifested entities now. And it is all kinds of physical existence that come from Prakriti. The earth, objects, everything that is coming from Prakriti, everything that is mutable. Mutable means mutable and immutable. Immutable means it cannot change. Mutable means it can change. So anything that is mutable, everything that we see as transient, impermanent. Okay, so now we understand the difference, correct? So the difference pretty much is in the scope and emphasis. So Prakriti is like higher level, overarching, which is you can call it material principle if you want. And Adibhuta is the material. So Adibhuta, in other words, so Prakriti means it is like the difference between a tree and nature. So when you say nature, what does it mean? Nature is a concept, whereas tree is an actual manifestation of nature. So when you talk about Prakriti, it is the same as saying nature. But when you talk about Adibhuta, it is like talking about a tree. Okay, so maybe that makes it easier to understand. The next question from Arjuna. What is Adideva? So similarly, the Adideva is the universal personality of Supreme Lord. It encompasses all demigods, all the planets, everything. And Adideva is the universal controller. Now again, the question may come, so then how is it different from Purusha? Because Purusha is what you said as. I mean, if you don't have that question, I'm happy. But if you have that question, I'm still happy because I have the answer. So Adideva literally means pertaining to the deity. In other words, it refers to the celestial aspect of the universe, the divine aspect of the universe. And it is associated with gods, higher beings, all the entities that are presiding over the nature and cosmos, the running of the universe, basically. So in the context of Bhagavad Gita, you can say that Adideva means it is the principle that governs the universe. And how does it govern the universe? By manifesting through various deities. Like sun god, moon god, Varuna, Indra and all of that. Again, if you want to contrast it with Purusha, it's the same explanation. The same explanation we gave, the difference between Prakriti and Adibhuta, the same differentiation we give between Purusha and Adideva. Whereas Purusha is the essence, whereas Adideva is the manifestation of that essence. Where you can actually look at Indra and say that Adideva, but you cannot look anywhere and say Purusha, because Purusha is the essence. Then Arjuna asks, what is Adi Yagya? Now you all know what is Yagya. Now Arjuna is asking, what is Adi Yagya? And Krishna says very simply, it is basically the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Is Adi Yagya. Bhokta Ram Yagya Tapasam. That is Adi Yagya. So in 5th chapter we studied. And this Adi Yagya is also termed as Paramatma. So we discussed those three aspects that Sulataji read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. One was Bhagavan, Paramatma. You remember? And that Paramatma you can relate with Adi Yagya. So how is this Adi Yagya known in the body? Krishna says this Adi Yagya has to be realized and felt within our heart. And when Krishna says heart, he's not talking about the physical heart. He's talking about the center of our existence. That is where all our deepest feelings and intuitions, they all come from. When you are sad, you cannot look at a X-ray machine and identify a sad person, because it is not a physical manifestation. Right? It is something much more subtle. And that sadness comes from the deepest part of you. And that is the heart. In spiritual terms, that is what is meant by the heart. So Krishna says we have to realize this Adi Yagya within our heart, within the core of our being. Do you all remember we shared a song? I don't remember if it was second chapter or third chapter. Vadana Kavala Geta. There was a song where, you remember, correct? It's a beautiful Marathi song. The whole idea is, when you eat, who is digesting that food? So if you follow this line of thought, this line of introspection, you will be able to realize that that is Adi Yagya, because that food is an offering, it's a sacrifice, it is a Yagya, and the Adi Yagya is the enjoyer of that. So there is a Yagya happening in your body every day. If you look at it that way, it is a very purifying, very divine, sanctifying experience. That is why even in Christianity, they say that gluttony is a sin. Gluttony basically means you are not eating to live, you are living to eat. You are eating just as a hobby. That is wrong, because you are missing the whole point. Eating is supposed to be a sacred act. It is an act of yagya that is happening in your body, and look at it that way. And when you change your perception that way, it will lead you to Adi Yagya. And these are all the kind of introspections Krishna is asking us to do. These are the subtle changes he wants us to make in our thought process, which will lead us beautifully towards self-realization and God realization. One very beautiful aspect of Adi Yagya, or this divine influence, what is the beautiful aspect? That divine does not command, and the divine doesn't demand either. Instead, it only inspires, gently leading us to acts of kindness, generosity, devotion. See, nobody commands you to be kind. Whenever you feel like being kind, you know that it is just some gentle, prodding from within. It's a very gentle, inspiring feeling that something within you inspires you, something within you prods you to be kind. Nothing yells at you to be kind. Nothing commands you, and nothing, sulks if you are not kind. You see, that is what is meant by Adi Yagya. Doesn't command or demand. It always is with you. It is a guiding force within you. It is always inspiring you to acts of kindness, generosity, and devotion. So whenever you feel kindness the next time, if you can tie it back to Adi Yagya, and if you can say that, oh, I am feeling like I want to be kind, this has to be the Adi Yagya which is inspiring me. You see? So these are the kind of small changes you make, and it will actually make the connection very strong. So all these beautiful things of kindness, generosity, devotion, love, compassion, selflessness, all the beautiful things we spoke about, understand that it is all originating from this Adi Yagya. It is all this Adi Yagya within you which is inspiring you for all of those beautiful things. So remember this, remind yourself always about that. And then Arjuna asks, how do we realize Krishna at the time of death? Now, this question is answered by Krishna throughout the rest of 8th chapter. We will cover this in the next session. Krishna will give you a lot of details about that. What is most important to remember is the power of bhakti. That is the most important part, because technically we can write a thesis of 100 pages that explains, how you can realize Krishna after death. You can talk about rituals, you can talk about chanting, you can talk about a million things, but what is the essence? What is the core? The core is, are you a bhakta? Are you a devotee? Because without that, nothing else will matter. And with that, nothing else will matter either. So the focus is, you need to be a true devotee. What does a true devotee mean? Conviction, consistency, and humility. And that is the whole essence, which will come later in 8th chapter. So would you all like a small story before we end this session? Do you have time?
Yes, Guruji.
Okay, let us take a small story that will inspire us on the path of bhakti further. So it's a very popular story. The story of a great saint. He was known as Sant Kanakadasa. So it's also a beautiful coincidence that yesterday Sulataji read a Kannada poem. That was the very first time that anybody did anything in Kannada. And so she recited a Kannada poem, and guess what? Today we are talking about a Canadian, not Canadian, what am I saying? Today we are talking about a Kannada saint.
Yeah.
A Kannada saint. We are talking about Kanakadasa. So it's around 1500s, that is where he lived. And Kanakadasa is from a very small village in Karnataka, and this story is all about faith, courage, and deep love for Krishna. That is the focus of this story. So Kanakadasa, he was born into a shepherd family. Shepherds, goats, they take care of goats. So it is considered to be a lower caste. But regardless, from a very young age, he was always having this strong connection to Krishna. And naturally he would sing and write poetry, and it used to just come naturally to him. But you could see that the poetry and his songs, they were all so beautiful, so deep, but still the society would not acknowledge or accept, because at least in those days, in 15th century and all, society was very strongly divided based on the caste system. So now there is this temple in Udupi, a Krishna temple, where Kanakadasa, he really wanted to go and have a deeper connection with Krishna. So he wanted to go pray there. But then that temple had very strict rules. A lot of temples used to have strict rules. That temple also had strict rules. They had rules on who can enter and who can enter which parts of the temple and who can do what. Everything was very strictly followed there. And so those people, they didn't let Kanakadasa enter the temple. So they shooed him away. They're like, you are from the shepherd community, so you are supposed to stand out. You cannot come inside. And so he was very sad, Kanakadasa, because he's such a natural devotee of Krishna. But he didn't give up. He didn't get into a victim mindset, and he didn't just give up or get angry or get negative. That is the beauty of devotees. Instead, what Kanakadasa did. So this is one of the most beautiful aspect of a true devotee is a true devotee always finds a way. That is what Krishna means by conviction and consistency. You are walking on a path, you see a rock on the road, you don't turn back and go home. That is not consistency, that is not conviction, that is just convenience. You are just going home and expecting that somebody else will clear the path and I will follow it some other day. That is not. So the devotees, they are never deterred by anything. They will always find a way. That is the example of Kanakadasa also, because he saw, okay, they are not letting me inside the temple, but he found a nice spot outside the temple that seemed like a peaceful spot, and he said he will stand there and he will sing his heart out. And he also told himself, it is in fact good I'm outside the temple. Nobody is going to bother me. I can sing as loudly as I want. So he stands in that beautiful spot, and he starts singing his heart out. And so they say that Lord Krishna himself heard him. It's a very beautiful story. And a miracle happened. What was the miracle? The statue of Krishna, which was actually turning inside the temple, that turned outside towards west, the direction where Kanakadasa was standing and singing. So the statue turned so that it can hear Kanakadasa better. So in other words, this was Krishna's way of showing the world that true devotion can break through any barrier. Okay. Now, because of this miracle, they created a small window in the temple wall, and that window is known as Kanakana Kindi, which is a window of Kanakadasa. And from there also you can view Lord Krishna. It became a symbol of devotion and love. And it became a symbol that symbolized that devotion and love, they are beyond all kind of caste and social divisions. So it is well acknowledged, that particular incidents. See, this whole thing should make our conviction stronger. But there is one more twist to this. It is said that the most profound lesson in Kanakadasa's journey, it came through an unusual test. What was the test? So one night Kanakadasa was, how these saints are. The saints can be in that in-between state. They are neither asleep nor awake. There are some technical words also for that, but they are in that state of, kind of blissful state. And it said that in that state a vision came to Kanakadasa. What was that vision? That the Lord Krishna was radiant and majestic. He was standing before him in all the glory, Krishna himself standing bright and brilliant and beautiful. And Kanakadasa is overwhelmed. So he kneels, he goes on his knees, and his heart is full of love and his eyes are brimming with tears of devotion. And it is said that at that time when Krishna spoke a word, it felt that that word that was spoken was so deep, so vast. It felt like that word itself was the whole universe. So you know how it is, this profound experience, doesn't matter how many words you use to explain, it still will not do justice. It has to be experienced. But this is how it was there. But what happened? What was the test? Because at this point, it is a lot of positive emotions and ecstasy and devotion, all of that going on. And at that time, they say that Krishna reached out and slapped him. See what happens. Just imagine, imagine if somebody comes and tells me that they love me and I go and slap them, they're going to slap me back 3 or 4 times and walk away, right? That's what usually happens. But here you see, it was a divine Leela going on. So in that moment of love, when Krishna slapped him, he felt it was not an ordinary slap, but it was a divine touch. That is how he took it. He said it is a divine touch. It is meant to transform me. This is how Kanakadasa was thinking about it. He said it is a divine touch and it is meant not just to transform me, but also to teach me and test me. Now, the moment he got into that kind of a mindset, even when Krishna slapped him, that is when the true connection happened. The true intimacy of a devotee, that is when that true bond was formed. It's a very, very beautiful story. So that slap is a message. What is the message? Krishna is giving a message to Kanaka and rest of us that the path of devotion is full of challenges. Because you are talking about divine love, you're talking about unconditional love. Right? So it's full of challenges. And your faith will be tested. How it is going to be tested? Tested through adversity. It's going to happen. You have to be thankful for that. Because if Krishna did not slap him, that true intimacy would never have happened. So Kanakadasa, instead of saying Krishna slapped me and sulking, he was a saint. So he took it in the right way and he was more ecstatic and he was thanking Krishna for slapping him. See, that is what makes you a lover, a divine lover. So these are 2 lessons. Lesson 1, that Krishna is always there for you and Krishna is always reaching out to you and Krishna wants you to be in love with him. Lesson 2 is, but he will test you, because it is only through tests that we will know where we stand. Correct? You may think that you are the fastest runner on the planet, but how will you know? Only when a mad dog is chasing you, then you will know how fast you can really run. So you have to thank that mad dog actually for giving you an idea of how fast you can actually run. Just like that, when you have tests, you have to be thankful, and it should only be deepening your devotion. That is Krishna's way of preparing. So Krishna was preparing Kanakadasa for further deepening his devotion and intimacy with him. Because there is no limit. It is not like human love. Human love, there is a limit beyond which, you can't go beyond that. Whereas divine love is unlimited. There is no limit. So it is said that interaction, that divine Leela, that divine interaction, that totally transformed Kanakadasa even further. And it is said that he came out of that vision with a much deeper understanding of what divine love really means. It is said that incident made Kanakadasa completely realize that this is exactly what divine love is. And after that, it is said that he sung even more passionately about Krishna. He was already very passionate, but after these incidents, he became even more passionate about Krishna, and his songs were full of not just love, but also wisdom. And so the story of a slap is very popular in that part of India. And the story is told to encourage people on the path of devotion, that, if you persevere, you will come out a deeper devotee. And so, but this is not myth, it's not mythology. It actually happened because that temple is still there in Udupi. It is known
I have
as the
been
Udupi
there.
Krishna. You have been there?
Yes, I've been
Wow,
there.
beautiful.
And the Kanakana Kindi is also real, and I have seen Krishna through that. We've been there. It's very nice, and
Beautiful.
it is true.
You are
And
blessed.
there is a movie also. People are interested. It's called Bhakta Kanakadasa. It's in Kannada, but it's very beautifully. Whatever you have said, the whole thing they have described it like that. It's true. It's a true story, and it has happened.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we have someone here who has witnessed it. Thank you, Smita ji. And
Near my hometown.
what is it,
Sorry?
Sulata ji?
It's near my hometown, Mulki.
Oh,
It's half an
Yeah.
hour from
Same
so
here.
there
That
is a
is my
lot of,
hometown too. Hometown too. So that's why I know that place. I've been many times actually. So it's very beautiful. Yeah.
He read today and she also told.
Yeah, and today you read, Smita ji, you read the translation today.
I didn't realize that. Thank you.
See?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Kalpana ji just pointed it out. So it's all divine
I know.
leelas
I
going
didn't
on.
realize. Thank you so much.
Yeah, divine leela. So pay attention. Krishna has some message for you, Smita ji. Stay on the path. Stay committed. Krishna is.
Thank you, Guruji.
He has his grace upon you. So beautiful.
So you're driving everything, Guruji. It's because if you would not have started the session, I would not have joined. So there is so many things that you're driving. So we are very thankful to you for all your efforts and everything.
I'm driving because Krishna is making me do it. So I'm an instrument,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to be that instrument. And I'm just I sometimes get a little impatient. I want to see the evolution going faster. So that is why I keep asking people, turn your cameras on, participate more, because it's the experience that really matters. There are people who tell me, they tell me, oh, I have to go to, Goa. I have to go to Goa for 4 or 5 days. I'm like, why do you want to spend all this time driving, going, spending money? I will just share a recording of Goa. You can sit home and watch everything. Why don't you do that? That do they understand? Oh, it is not the same. They understand. Going to Goa is not the same as. But then when it comes to Bhagavad Gita sessions, people are like, oh, we will just listen to the podcast aram se ghar baith ke. I'm like, this whole interaction where you see each other, you can see the emotions, you can see the feeling, you can feel the vibrations. This is what makes it a satsang, as a divine experience. And whether you believe it or not, all the teachings that you are all listening, it is actually going deeper into you because of this association. Because it is a collective consciousness going on here, where everybody is in the same mindset of we want to understand, we want to evolve, so that knowledge is making amplified sense to all of you. You are not understanding it. You are not realizing it. So we are all blessed. I am blessed to have you in my family. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I can share the address of the temple if whoever is interested. I will make it part of my notes. So maybe we can all plan a trip someday in future and visit Kanakadasa. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I've spoken a lot. If anybody had any comments or questions, please go ahead. Yes, Poonamji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Guruji,
Yes.
you said at the time of death how to remember Krishna. It suddenly reminded me my mother used to sing one bhajan of Anup Jalota. I don't know whether anybody has heard it. Itna to karna Swami, jab pran tan se nikle. Just all of you listen that bhajan. My mother used to sing that.
Very
And
nice.
it was a beautiful bhajan. Itna to karna Swami, jab pran tan se nikle. What all should we do that time? How
Very
to pray
nice.
to Krishna.
Thank you, Poonamji. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'll definitely.
Anup Jalota's bhajan. Is Anup Jalota's bhajan?
Ji had put that.
Yeah, I think Sulata ji had also shared the text of that sometime in the past. So I encourage
Okay.
everybody to listen. Definitely.
Listen to the Anup Jalota's version.
Sure. Thank you,
Okay.
Poonamji.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I have the most awesome students on the planet. कोई भी topic रहो, you know, Brahman, Purusha, Prakriti, no big deal. Like everything clear, sir. No?
Guruji, just last one. The usual culprit. Like, how will you? Adi Yoga is something that is within us, which inspire us to be being humble and we have more humility and something like that. But how do you describe Adi Deva?
That's what we discussed. No? It's like the manifested. Like, so if you can point at a god and say it is Indra or Varuna or whatever, that is the Adi Deva aspect that we are talking about here. Whereas you cannot point at anything and say Purusha, because Purusha is just the essence. It is subtle. It's, so very nice. I know I have taken a little more time today and really grateful and thankful to all of you for staying with me and supporting this whole satsang family. So Hare Krishna. See you all again in the next session. And whoever wants to volunteer, please let Chitra ji know so that she can add to our scheduling sheet for the next batch. Okay, Hare Krishna. See you all.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
It was
Krishna.
beautiful,
Thank you,
Guruji.
Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Story was
Thank
beautiful.
you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.